Welcome to Spill the Tea, where we steep the facts, stir the controversy, and pour out the truth behind everything you thought you knew. Let's start with a new journey into the tea world. You made the switch. You gave up coffee or tried to. You reached for tea, the safe choice. You saw the word decaf and thought this is harmless. Smooth, soothing, caffeine-free, except it's not. Because here's the truth most people don't know. Decaf tea still has caffeine. And what's worse, it can still mess with your nervous system, your hormones, and your sleep. How much caffeine is really left in that decaffeinated tea? What does naturally decaffeinated even mean? And what don't the labels or the companies tell you? In this episode, we dive into the quiet myth behind decaf tea. We'll break down the 4 ways tea is decaffeinated, why you may still feel jittery, anxious, or wide awake, what trace caffeine really means for your body, and why even tiny doses can still have big effects, especially over time. If you thought switching to decaf tea was the end of your caffeine story, this might be your plot twist. Let's unpack the leaves and spill the tea. Here's the first lie on the label: decaf not equal to zero caffeine. S and AU standards, a product can be labeled decaffeinated if 97% or more of its original caffeine content has been removed. That sounds impressive until you look closer. If a cup of black tea has 50 to 90 mg of caffeine, then a decaf version still contains 2 to 6 mg per cup, sometimes more, depending on the method used and how long it was steeped. And here's the plot twist: caffeine content isn't always consistent, even in decaf. Why? Because factors like the leaf type, the processing method, the steeping time, the temperature, and even the brand can change how much caffeine ends up in your cup. So while you think you're sipping something safe, you may still be getting a microdose of stimulation, enough to affect sensitive systems like your sleep, your heart rate, or your cortisol. And it builds, sip by sip, day by day. Let's lift the lid on the decaf process, because how tea is decaffeinated matters just as much as what's left in the cup. There are 4 primary methods used to strip caffeine from tea leaves: solvent-based decaffeination, methylene chloride or ethyl acetate. The leaves are soaked in a chemical that binds with caffeine molecules. Effective, yes, but the health implications of residual solvents? Debatable. Supercritical CO2 extraction. This is the most high-tech and arguably cleanest method. Carbon dioxide under high pressure acts like a solvent, targeting caffeine and leaving most flavor behind. Expensive, so often used for premium brands only. Water processing, aka Swiss water method. Mostly used in decaf coffee, rarely applied to tea. Uses osmosis and solubility, but strips some flavor and isn't widely available. Natural ethyl acetate method. Often marketed as naturally decaffeinated, this uses a compound derived from fruit. Sounds nice, right? But ethyl acetate may not be as natural as it sounds, and flavor can suffer. Each of these methods leaves behind some caffeine, and more importantly, they all alter the tea's chemistry. You're not drinking tea anymore. You're drinking a processed version of what tea used to be, sometimes less flavorful, sometimes harder to digest, sometimes still too stimulating. And if you're sensitive to caffeine, these traces matter. Here's where things get real. I eat chocolate, but that assumes your body is neutral, and it's not. The effects of caffeine vary widely between individuals. Some people metabolize caffeine quickly. Others, especially those with CYP1A2 slow metabolizer genes, process caffeine much slower, which means even a little sticks around much longer. For these people, even decaf tea can cause restlessness, an increased heart rate, a sleep disruption, an anxiety, hormonal imbalance, cortisol elevation, delayed melatonin production. And here's the kicker: caffeine isn't just about stimulation. It's a central nervous system modifier. It can subtly push your body into fight or flight, alter digestion, and impact adrenal function. So if you're someone who's sensitive, recovering from burnout, struggling with insomnia, or managing anxiety, that tiny amount in your nightly cup may be the very thing keeping you from full recovery. And you'll never suspect it, because the label told you it was safe. Raise your hand if this sounds familiar. You switch to decaf in the afternoon. You drink a calming decaf tea before bed. You wind down, maybe even meditate. But your sleep still shallow, still interrupted, still not enough. You assume it's stress, or age, or your phone. But what if it's the tea? Caffeine, even in tiny amounts, blocks adenosine, the brain chemical that makes you feel sleepy. Even 2 to 5 mg of caffeine, taken close to bedtime, can delay your ability to fall asleep, reduce deep sleep, and suppress melatonin. And if you're drinking more than one decaf cup, say 2 or 3, you're now entering full light stimulation mode. You think you're calming down, but internally, your brain is still in go mode, just quiet enough that you don't notice. And over time, this builds into sleep debt. More fatigue, more cravings. More cortisol, more inflammation, and the cycle repeats. Sometimes nothing at all. Why? Because legally they don't have to. And that's part of the problem. You, the consumer, are flying blind. And the more you trust the packaging, the more likely you are to underestimate what's happening inside your body. You don't know if the method used preserved beneficial polyphenols or destroyed them. You don't know if there are residual chemicals. You don't know how your individual sensitivity plays into the experience. And yet, you trust the cup because it looks gentle. That's how myths work. And that's how habits get built on shaky ground. Maybe you've tried to be smart. You've moved from coffee to black tea to green tea to decaf tea to herbal tea blends. But here's the twist. Even some herbal teas contain caffeine, especially blends with yerba mate, guayusa, or even hidden green tea extract. And some bedtime teas use decaf black tea as a base, without disclosing it on the front label. So now, you're drinking what you believe is a sedative, but you're secretly dosing your brain with stimulation. Even chocolate-flavored teas or chai-inspired herbal blends sometimes contain trace theobromine, another stimulant cousin of caffeine. It's not just about what you remove, it's about what gets left behind. So when people say, switch to herbal tea, it's a good idea, but only if the ingredients list is clear. You're not just trying to avoid caffeine. You're trying to calm your system. And even trace amounts of the wrong stimulant at the wrong time is enough to throw off your rhythm. Okay, so what do? Here's the practical path for people who want the ritual, the warmth, the peace, without the stimulant side effects. A switch to true herbal teas. Right arrow ingredients like rooibos, chamomile, lemon balm, peppermint, tulsi, ginger. Right arrow, these are naturally caffeine-free and not chemically processed. Read the labels and dig deeper. Look for caffeine-free, not decaffeinated. Check ingredient lists for green tea extract, mate guayusa, or cocoa shells. Skip tea for 6 hours before bedtime. Right arrow, even herbal blends can stimulate digestion or metabolism. Choose sun-dried or non-processed herbal teas. Right arrow, the less processing, the less your body has to decode. Use your body as the final feedback system. Track how you feel after every cup. Right arrow energies. Jitters, crashes, trouble sleeping. Tea isn't the enemy, but the myth of decaf might be. And when you sip with clarity, not just comfort, everything changes. Decaf tea isn't evil, but it isn't always what it seems. In our rush to escape caffeine, we often run straight into its shadow. If you're sensitive, anxious, wired, or simply tired, trace amounts matter. Tiny doses still speak to your body, even if you don't feel them. And over time, that small whisper can turn into a storm. So let this be your new ritual. Don't just trust the label. Listen to your body, know your leaves, and sip with awareness. Because true peace, the kind you seek from tea, doesn't come from what's removed. It comes from what you understand. This has been Spill the Tea, where your cup holds more than flavor, it holds the truth. If you learned something new today, if you've ever felt off from decaf and couldn't explain it, you're not crazy. You're paying attention. Let us know in the comments. Have you had unexpected side effects from decaf tea? What's your favorite truly caffeine-free alternative? And don't forget, subscribe for more honest breakdowns, from the myths behind your mug to the science inside your sip. We've got more from this series, so if you missed our coffee deep dives, go check them out. Until next time, not all tea is served hot. But here, it's always served real.